Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Chacko, and I'm here with Serenity and Health. And we're continuing with this series of, we call them pop up conversations. And just so you know, they're about the intersection of faith and health. I'm been really keenly interested in people whose lives, either personally or professionally, have demonstrated the power of this connection and the interactions and how the mind, body, spirit interactions sometimes get all tangled up in ways that can be wonderful or they can be challenging. So, with that introduction, I would like to tell you about Ryan Atkins, who's here with us today. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Donna, great to be with you today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. I'm really happy to have you here. So, everyone, Ryan, I met because he was a reference for a book editor. So Ryan was the reference because Ryan is just publishing his book coming out next week, which he's going to tell us about it. One Step Closer is the name of it. And it's a very powerful book, which I just finished reading because I got a pre-copy. And I don't know if I've ever talked to somebody who just wrote a book. I think you are the first one, Ryan.
Wow, what an honor.
Yeah, so I was really thinking about it, like, wow. And since I'm just finishing my book, it's like a double wow because Ryan wrote this book and in with more challenges than I have had, and it's been really, really hard for me. So Ryan will tell us his story, but basically he has been paralyzed since the age of 21 and has had lots of ups and downs and major challenges and major growth. Um, and he's put this all into a really, really powerful book. And we'll just learn a bit about his story today. So, well, Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what happened and what's gone on, especially the early years, and we'll kind of move through your story.
Yeah, definitely. So I was junior in college at the University of Cincinnati in 2009, and I was top of the world. I had full ride scholarship. I was very involved in many activities. I had big plans in the business world. I was excited, and I couldn't wait for what was next. And it was November 2009. I was on the way to a weekend retreat. I was for a college event, and I lost control of my vehicle and flipped multiple times on the side of the highway, and all of a sudden my world had completely flipped upside down. I got airlifted to the hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, and there they essentially declared me paralyzed below the neck, and nothing would return. They said I'd be on a ventilator for life, with no movement of my arms and legs. And so it was in that season where this whole world that I knew and loved came to a screeching halt, and I was officially battling for my life.
Wow. I want everybody to know that Ryan was wearing a seatbelt. Just want to
Was
put that out there.
which
And there was no alcohol.
well, yeah, I think that seatbelt definitely helped my inner organs and my bones. So there was nothing besides the break in my neck, which was pretty big, but the rest of my body was totally fine. But I was starting this new battle with quadriplegia, and that lasted in the hospital for a few months. Thankfully, I was able to get off the ventilator and start the next phase of my story.
Can you remember when it hit you that it was real? I mean, what was it?
Yeah, so I would say there was a moment in the hospital when I had been in bed for a couple months. I was used to that. Had lots of drugs through my system, just numb the pain, and really just going to help me get back to where I would be able to function my maximum capability. But I think it was when this wheelchair rep came into the room and was saying, "Hey, we got a fit for a wheelchair," and I thought, "Oh, sure, I'll use that for a few weeks, maybe a few months." But he's like, "Hey, this will be your permanent chair, and we need to make sure it works. And I think there was this moment of like, oh, this isn't just some, 3-month stay in the hospital and then I get back to school like nothing happened. This is a big deal, and I've got quite a battle ahead of me.
Yeah, you certainly have. Wow. I know you were raised in some Christian faith, I gather, but at what point in time uh, did God enter your mind in this process?
So the first year after my accident, I was very focused on rehab. And I thought, hey, what do those doctors know? I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to get back to my arms and legs. And after about a year, I came to this place of like, oh, I'm working as hard as I can. Nothing's happening. And I realized I can't do this on my own. And it was that moment of coming to the end of myself of realizing, hey, I need someone greater than myself. And so I had been raised in a church going family, and I was familiar with stories in the Bible, but it just really wasn't where I wasn't as invested as I needed to be. And I just thought, hey, um, I'm gonna do this on my own, and sure, God can fill in the gaps if I'm struggling, but I needed to come to a place of, wow, God, I need you
Yeah.
to deliver me. And I remember I just went to church with my family one Sunday, and the pastor was talking about the healing of the paralytic.
Oh, wow.
And I was familiar with the story, and I thought, hey, that's the type of power I need. And so it really started me on this journey of seeking healing. And I'm going to get my miracle. And sure, I'll give God the credit, but yeah, that's what I'm going for. It was really in that season where God met me where I was, and realizing like I need the healer himself. And so my mindset really just became to seek the healer and not just the healing, and that was where my journey began.
Yeah. Well, from reading your book, I know that somewhere in here, a lovely young woman named Stephanie became part of your life, a lovely young lady you knew in second grade.
Yes.
I just saw her in the background. So, she was part of this journey, and somewhere in here, with this dream of healing uppermost
Yes.
in your mind, you guys got married, right? So tell us, that was a big part of everything, I guess.
Yeah. So Stephanie and I were in second grade class together, and didn't see each other for about 13 years. But she was in massage therapy school when I got hurt, and heard about the accident, and just reached out and offered some massage therapy. And I gladly took her up on it, and from there we developed a friendship. But it really wasn't until years later when the romantic relationship aspect of that developed. And we were both just on our own journey, looking for meaning and purpose in our lives, and seeing what it looked like to follow Jesus. And we started that journey together, and we were married in 2016.
Yes. And your anniversary's next week.
Yes, that's the day our book's coming out on.
No, next week is a huge week for you.
4-year anniversary. That'll be the time our book comes out.
Congratulations. It's just really quite wonderful. From reading your book, I can tell that the wedding was very wrapped up in your strong, the two separate things, but you believed you would be healed and walk at your wedding. And it's so, am I to understand, you really did believe that, right?
Yeah. So there was a season, the years prior to our wedding, we, through a series of, through prayer, through impressions, through dreams of ours and dreams of others, we were starting to believe, hey, this healing's coming, and it's going to happen in time for the wedding. And so, and that's quite a long story that I'll give right now. But yeah, we were.
Can read your book, because there is multiple incidences that pointed to this thing happening. And they're in the book.
Yeah, and that's where and all of a sudden rather than putting my hope in who Jesus is and who he is as my Redeemer, and that being where all my hope is, it slowly my hope began to shift into putting all of my expectations into a certain outcome. And that outcome was being healed by the wedding. And I definitely underestimated just the impact that having all my hope there would have.
Right, right. Well, I'm very, very happy that you had a wonderful wedding, even if you couldn't walk. And I'm sure
Right.
you feel that way too, because I know then after celebrating your wonderful wedding, and I guess you at some point in there moved to a home of your own with Stephanie.
Yes.
Is Stephanie around? Does she want to say hi to us?
Stephanie, come say hi.
Am I putting you on the spot? Do you mind?
There she is.
Here. Hello.
Stephanie,
My
nice.
second grade sweetheart right here.
Sweetheart. Was that you in that picture in the book with the glasses?
Yep, that was me.
Well, I'm happy to meet you. It was, I'm sure you had just a little bit to do maybe with getting the book going, because I mean, I need help.
Yeah, it was a fun project to work on together.
I know.
Yeah, Stephanie.
It's
Everything went through Stephanie first in terms of editing, restructuring. So we definitely tackled it as a team.
Yeah. Well, and you went through it the whole thing you went through.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Stephanie, how long after the accident did you show up uninvited at the house?
It was about 4 months. So it was right when Ryan got home from the hospital.
Correct. And so what were you thinking, by the way?
Well, I was pretty nervous. I was still in massage school, so I didn't really know much yet. I was pretty nervous I didn't know if I could break his neck again by massaging it.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen each other in over a decade.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I pushed through all those insecurities because it was worth it.
You were thinking really that you just might have something to offer to help a difficult situation.
Yeah. That was kind of why I decided to go to massage school in the first place, was just to try to help people feel better. So it seemed like a good opportunity.
I thought, hey, I want to make that girl my wife.
Well, looks like everybody got what they wanted here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy for you. Really happy for you. Yes, but then I understand things got really, really rough after the wedding when you were married, you had your wife, you had your home, but you were still paralyzed and your whole spiritual thing got rough.
Yeah. And so I not realizing how much hope I had attached to that healing, my body began to see the consequences. And I began to feel I didn't realize what was going on, but my body just took a nosedive. I was unable to, began struggling with sleep. My muscle spasms got worse. I started becoming real slow, trouble swallowing, breathing. And it's almost as if my body was shutting down. And about a couple of years after our wedding, Stephanie had been going back and forth thinking, hey, like we got to see a doctor, we got to go to the hospital or something. And she overheard me having a seizure in our bedroom and flipped me on my side and went to the emergency room. And I was there for about a month. And it was quite a low point in the past decade, a very, very scary time.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you angry with God that he didn't heal you?
I would say I was more confused.
Yeah.
Before the wedding, all my hope was in this healing. And then afterwards I thought, hey, I mean, I obviously can't hear God, right? Like I can't understand him. Almost like why bother? It became more of like an attitude of apathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I obviously can't hear God, right? I can't understand what he's saying. I felt foolish. I felt just ashamed of like, wow, I can't believe a lot of our marriages start like this and just experiencing such deep disappointment.
Yeah.
And so just kind of seeming slowly like checking out.
Yeah.
And I just distracted myself with other things.
So I guess that's a very, very powerful example of this whole mind, body, spirit
Yeah.
connection, because it was the thoughts in your head, because from what I gathered from the book, that's a muscle spasm for everybody who's
Yes, she's just
getting
she's
some.
hopping in to help out there.
Yeah, from what I gathered in the book, they found no physical explanation for a whole raft of symptoms and neurological problems and seizures and everything that went on. There was no medical explanation, right?
Right. And so they didn't know what to tell us, and so they finally let me go home. And I was all of a sudden able to sleep better. I got an appetite.
Oh, there was a ton of prayer in there, though.
Yeah, there was a team of prayer.
Yes.
People praying for me in the hospital, and it was I don't really remember much of it, but there was quite a big deliverance for me there.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. It was an event that stretched out, but something major happened with you call it a battleground. It was, I mean, your despondency, your self-loathing, your loss of hope on one side, and the love and the prayers and your hope and your wife on the other side.
Right.
And your body was taking.
There was an intense spiritual battle going on. I don't fully understand it. It was, and I honestly don't remember a ton of it. Stephanie has helped me fill in a lot of the details, but once I got home after miraculous deliverance, I was kind of thinking, okay, now what? Like, where do I go now? I haven't been this alert in years. I'm healthy. I'm feeling good.
You got your voice, you could swallow, you could do everything.
Yeah, everything came back, and it was feeling great. And I thought, okay, now what do I do? And it was in that season where I was just trying to figure it out. I came across Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And as I was reading that book, there was quite a few aspects that really stuck out to me. And it was almost like this light bulb went off of like, oh, was that what was happening to me? And so then I began to unpack that and learn quite a bit about myself and what would have been happening.
Yeah, the lead quote in your book I wrote down is, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." That sounded like that book just was a tremendous. Isn't it cool how, I mean, just think about it. Somebody's words brought you hope and meaning to contribute to your healing in such a powerful way. It's pretty dramatic. See, your book,
absolutely,
your book will do that for people.
Yeah, and I write quite a bit about just that season and what I learned from Viktor Frankl's work, and seeing a lot of his explanations. He witnessed a lot of prisoners who thought, "Hey, we're going to get out by Christmas. We're going to get out by Easter."
Let's say, for people who don't know, he was in the Holocaust, Viktor Frankl, and he wrote his book.
He was a psychologist.
Yeah,
he was a physiotherapist, and he just wrote down his observations of different people they were holding as prisoners, and he began to notice that those who started thinking, "Oh, we're going to get out by Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter," they had this tremendous hope in a certain date or a certain outcome. And then a lot of those people that, when that time frame came and passed, they crashed, and their hope was in something so unsustainable that they had no control over getting out by that time. And I think similarly, I had so much hope of, oh, this paralysis, this quadriplegia, it's all going to be gone by my wedding, so I can grit my teeth until then, and from there everything will just be easy after that. And Viktor Frankl just talks about how we need to have this. It's great to have hope. It's great to have expectation, but we also need to stay in reality and realize, like, hey, this is tough, and we need to have a sense of meaning while we're here.
Yeah. Boy, you went through a rough patch to find meaning, huh?
Yes. And so in his book, he talks about three things we all need to have a sense of meaning. He says, one, we need to be in the context of loving relationships with other people, people that we know that will love us unconditionally. We need to have a project to work on. We need a reason to get up in the morning. This could be something we're working on. It could be It could be volunteer work. It could be just a regular 9 to 5 job, but we need a reason to get up in the morning and feeling like, hey, what I did today matters.
Mhm.
And I think, and the last one is have a redemptive view of our suffering.
Ah,
And without that redemptive view, it's all, we look at the hardest points in our life and we think, oh, well, that was pointless and that was hard and I didn't learn anything from that. But when we're able to look at it with a redemptive lens, we can really understand just how God is using that to shape us and to mold us, and how it will continue to benefit us going forward.
oh yeah, that's powerful. Those 3 points like that. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, for the listeners, this very low point in Ryan's life was only January 2019, right?
Yeah, last year.
So so last year. And so in the interval since then, he's finished his book and it's to be published next week. I just feel like we should give you a huge applause. So you certainly found a project and a purpose, right?
Yes, and I think the being able to find that hope that is lasting. I think realizing, okay, I still believe that Jesus can heal me. I believe I'll have that opportunity to be up on my feet again on this earth. But to have my ultimate hope, it needs to be an eternity with in the kingdom of God, and how I think when we are able to view our lives and our suffering in the context of an eternal perspective, then we're really able to, I believe we can live with purpose. I believe we can live with a redemptive view of our suffering.
Mhm.
And that allows us to recognize, hey, you know what? This temporary trial in the context of eternity, it's just a blip on the radar. And we have it's not just the short life on earth, there's eternity with God. And where are we going to put our hope, and where do we want to invest our time and talent?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's profound, and you're living it, and so you're a wonderful spokesman. I think your book will, really have an impact on people. I'm certainly going to be recommending it. Many of us, and I bet you too, before your accident, you would look at somebody who's paralyzed, especially if they were young, and you go, oh wow, what must that be like? And
Yeah.
sometimes an awkwardness. I wanted to ask you about this also, an awkwardness in gracefully approaching them and dealing with them. I mean, like, it's not that it's not purposeful to be awkward, you know.
Right.
So talk about those things. What was your perspective?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely I think there's maybe a little more of a challenge when I first meet someone. I know it's I feel like, you know what, I should make sure I disarm them, make sure they know, hey, I'm okay. I can joke around. I can have a great conversation. But yeah, I definitely don't want people to be uncomfortable around me. But I recognize that can be a little awkward at first. But the one thing I think through writing a book and through speaking and sharing on my website, through my blog the last few years, I think it's just really allowed me to communicate in a way that shares with people that I may not have been comfortable speaking to me or coming around who I was in a relationship with, and just assuring them, hey, I'm okay. And yes, it's been challenging. But I'm learning that we can live with hope no matter the circumstances. And I think being able to just speak and share with others online,
Mhm.
my website and the book now, I think just offers an opportunity, just a way to reach out to people that may not have been comfortable talking to me before.
Yeah.
And I've been pleasantly surprised with over the years of putting myself out there, of the relationships that has developed, and it even in some cases began.
Right. Ryan, in your book, you really made yourself vulnerable with some of the stuff you shared. I mean, I'm sure that draws people to you, but it's very impressive. I'm thinking of like the whole story of what's the guy's name, Chris Norton, and how you
Yeah.
so honestly, I mean, this is a universal thing, this comparison. So, I mean, you want to tell us about Chris Norton, but I mean, that's a universal deal of
Oh,
comparing to other people. And so you had it in spades.
yeah, absolutely. So one of my goals with the book was I recognize that not everyone knows what it's like to live with paralysis. We all wrestle with other insecurities, whether it's comparison or pride or shame or guilt. And the example that you bring up, I thought for years I had this vision of where I would be in the business world. And when I began to see my peers and college buddies move on and graduate and start jobs and start to build families, it was really easy to feel insecure and feel like, oh, life's moving on without me. But I felt like I got to a point of thinking, hey, you know what? God's got a new story for me. And as soon as I thought I'd put that to rest, a new form of currency rather than monies and titles, it was like, it was what is my reach? Where's my physical body? And I came across this guy, Chris, who had a quite a big platform. He had a viral video of his rehab, and it began to make me wonder, like, wait, this guy's the same age as me, has the same injury, and yet his physical body is coming back in a way that mine has not been yet. And as a result of the video and everything, his platform opened up in a big way, and I maybe begin to wonder, like, wait, and what I have to say not as valuable? Am I not working as hard? Is there something I'm doing wrong? And I think I had to come to a point of realizing, like, hey, no matter what the context, whether it's comparing myself to others in the business world or even just people with spinal cord injuries, like, we're each running our own race, and
Right.
ultimately God is not concerned with our status or success. And no matter what the context is, I want to be able to remember that, and I think as a result, I can protect myself from that going forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, putting it out there in such detail, I think was really, that sort of to put you putting your weakness out there. It's very healing for other people. Like, yeah, I don't know, just for the readers, the person we're talking about, Chris, he was also paralyzed, same level of injury, and yet he was able to
Yes.
walk at his wedding, which was the dream of Ryan and Stephanie.
Yeah, and we had it was the strangest thing. I got this letter from my grandpa, who had no idea what we were believing for, with this full-length article on Chris, and paralyzed man walks at his wedding. I'm like, God, that was our story. That's what we were waiting for. What's happening here? And so that was just this season of confusion.
Yeah.
And it just brought up that comparison aspect. And I mean, yeah, it doesn't mean it's just totally gone. We all wrestle with comparison in some way, whether it's feeling insecure of where we are, getting jealous of someone else.
Right.
And that looks different for each of us. But
Right.
I found that I just need to focus on my own race, and hopefully can continue doing that better in the future.
Right. Well, Ryan and I both know this idea of putting a book out there. Then you keep thinking about, like, well, who's going to see it, and your reach, and who subscribes, and all those things, and it can make you a little wacky in the head. So we'll help each other stay to the core.
Absolutely, and it's not about the number of subscribers or books sold or anything like that. And I want my book to do well. I believe it will be an encouragement to people, and I've really tried to be vulnerable as possible. But I want it to reach people. I want it to give hope.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, I'm not going to be defined by the success of the book or
Right.
What my title is or
Right.
or what the status of my body is. And I need to stay in my lane and just focus on what's right in front of me.
Right. One of the ladies, young that I interviewed for this series is in athletes. She's active in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and she forget what the Bible quote was, but anyway, her message is, God doesn't care about the fruit; He cares about the faithfulness. Just, it's the faithfulness. He'll worry about the fruit. That's not our deal, too. So it's a good message.
Yeah, our job is to plant the seeds and God's the one that makes them grow.
That's right. So what would be like one main, is there a couple things, anything specific that you for take home for our viewers?
I would say that the only way that I have found to really live with continued everlasting hope is to live through the lens of embracing an eternal perspective. And when I'm focused on, hey, you know what? Is this going to matter in 5, 10 years? Is it going to matter? Is it going to matter in 100 years, 1,000 years? And if I'm able to view my life and especially the hardships through an eternal perspective, I think that's when I can live with purpose in the most effective way. And I believe it gives me a reason to have hope every day, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's going on with COVID or the election or my body, or I don't have to worry about these external things that ultimately like are not going to define my eternal experience.
Right.
And so I think being able to live with that it's really just opened up just a tremendous amount of hope for me, and just stirred an excitement for not only the rest of my life on earth, but for what's to come in eternity with God.
Very good. That's profound. That would help us all, especially in this troubled time, if we can keep our perspective, because there's lots we could fuss about if we so chose.
Right.
So I want everybody to know that we're going to have some show notes, and we're going to have all the information about Ryan, his website, his email, specifically his book, how you can get it. It's called One Step Closer. What's the subtitle again, Ryan?
How a life-altering accident led me to everything I almost missed.
Yeah. And starting next week, it will be available, but you can pre-order it now. And there's a companion journal to go with it.
Yes.
I think it's certainly not a book just for paralyzed people. That is for certain sure. It is for anyone that is struggling, trying to figure out what's wrong, what's happening, what to do.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to, just really wanted to bring to the surface just areas where we all struggle. There's universal truths of like, hey, we all need a sense of meaning. We all need a sense of purpose.
Right.
And we all have suffering to a certain extent. And how can we have a redemptive view of that? And I believe the best way is by embracing an internal perspective.
Right. Very, very good. Well, I wish you just great success with the launch of your book next week, and a happy anniversary. Happy to meet Stephanie. Do you have any questions for me? Anything else you want to add, or any last things you want to add that we didn't?
Yeah, well, I'd love to connect with anyone in your audience. I've got a free chapter on the website, Ryan S. Atkins.
We'll put that on the show notes as well.
Great. Yeah, I've got a chapter, and I put together a companion guide just to make it I want it to be about the reader. I want them to see where they can what they can pick up in the middle of it. And so that's my hope with the book. And I appreciate the time today, Donna.
Oh, this is wonderful. I'm really, really happy we got to meet. I will have to shout out to Chad Allen for connecting us. Yay, Chad.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much. And who knows, maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime.
All right.
Well, you can gain even more wisdom, right? And share that.
Well, great to be with you today.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.